Hello, everyone, and welcome to Covered Podcast. I'm your host, Rahel. I'm also one of the content creators here at Covered Generation, and I'm so glad that you're here today. Now, this is our very first episode. So, yes, this is the official launch of Covered Generation, and you all get to witness it firsthand. So we are so happy that you're here joining us, and we're excited to step into this new season filled with purpose, truth, and real conversations and experiences that we get to share here on the podcast. So stay tuned, follow us, like us on Instagram, Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll get to hear firsthand about when we launch a new episode. And trust me, this is only the beginning. Today, we're diving into something that hits home for many of us. It's culture and commitment, choosing God over the noise, how to stay grounded with your relationship with God in a culture that feels loud, confusing, and honestly, even chaotic. Let's be real, the world feels like everything's upside down. What's good is bad, what's bad is good. And we see that in many of our relationships today. So much of what we see and hear is driven by confusion, fear, and self-idolatry. And yet it's still full of people searching. We're still searching. We're crying out in hard times saying, I'm praying, or God's got me. But the question really is, do we really know the God we're calling out to? Are we walking with him or just calling to him when life gets hard? I'll be the first to say that 4 years ago, that was not me. My life revolved around social circle, job, goals, family, relationships, and basically everything but my relationship with Christ. And I was focused on being a reliable person, being a reliable friend or a reliable family member, just being there for the people that I loved. And there gets to a point where you realize that you have to prioritize yourself over those relationships or prioritize God over those relationships. And at the time, that's not what I was doing. So when I fell into a ditch, I needed actual support. There was really no one to call. And one thing that I really am appreciative about that moment is that was when I was really able to build with God. So God will reach you in your isolation seasons. He will reach you when you fall. And it's also when he's closest to us. At the same time, when life was going good, I was not praying out to God. And that's one thing that I had to learn and I had to go through so I can be closer to God and understand why it's so important to have a relationship with Christ. Really, we shouldn't be relying on anyone in this world. We should be relying on God only. Now, that season really taught me a valuable lesson. People cannot be your foundation. Only God can be that. And in 2022, I'd say, is when I really found him. And I'm thankful for that day. So the second topic that we're going to be diving in today is walking with God means walking against the culture. So starting a relationship with God is beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful experiences that you will have. But let's not sugarcoat it because it's not easy. You start to see the world differently when you walk with God. And the music you once loved, especially if it was one that was made outside of Christ or worshiping God, that starts to bother you. Conversations feel empty if they're not about God or not about his will. Some friendships start to shift or fall away completely. And honestly, it may seem like a bad thing at the time, but it's really not. Following Christ means you'll be set apart. Sometimes people won't understand that you've been around. They won't understand these changes that you're going through and these initiatives that you're taking, but that's between you and God. And they may distance themselves or even attack your character for walking with God. But what's actually happening is that God is setting you apart to build his kingdom. So as the word says in Romans 12:2, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Now, that verse is really powerful because it's telling us not to be conformed to this world, not to follow this world's way. God has shown us a way and given us resources so that we can follow his way. We're not called to blend in, we're called to live differently. Let's pause here and get real. Okay, let me ask you some questions. Do you struggle to live life fully for God in today's culture? Do you feel like you have to hide your faith to fit in with your friends or coworkers? Are you surrounded by people who are truly loyal to God or just spiritual in the name only? Because we do have some of those in the churches. Is it hard to find music or media that doesn't celebrate sin? If you answered yes to any of these, you're not alone. There's a reason so many young adults are turning to things like astrology, angel numbers, spiritual influencers, or alternative religions that offer identity but not truth. The reason is simple. We are made to worship. Whether you see it or not, you're worshiping something in your life. We are wired to worship. And when we're not worshiping God, we will find something else to give our attention to. And if you know the Ten Commandments, the second commandment basically speaks against this. It tells us to not worship idols. We can make an idol out of anything. That can be a musician. That can be your school, your career, the money you have in your bank account. We are called not to idol anything but God. We're only supposed to worship God. And what I came to understand is all those things that we worship outside of God, they're empty substitutes. Now, going back to the word, Jesus said in John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And there's only one way, and that way is personal. It's a relationship. It's not religion. So one of the most important things for you to do on your walk with God is build a connection with God. Pray daily. The power of prayer will change your life. Now, diving into our third topic, why prayer is not negotiable. So prayer isn't a chore. It's a lifeline. It's how we stay aligned with God's will, how we hear his voice, and how we begin to be transformed. And for many of us, it's how we stay sane in this world. The Bible says in Psalms 119, 164, 7 times a day I praise you because of your righteous judgments. The Bible tells us to praise at least 7 times a day. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to walk around quoting scripture all day, but it means developing an ongoing daily rhythm of connection with God no matter where you are. You can pray anywhere. You can pray in your car. You can pray when you're walking. You can pray right before you go to work. Pray over your food. Pray in the morning. Pray in the night. Just have a constant relationship with God. There's not a boundary of when you can pray, but you should be praying often. And in Psalms 32:8, it says, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will guide you with my eye. That's really powerful. The Bible, God is literally telling us in Psalms 32:8 that he would instruct and teach us. But if we're not praying, if we don't have a connection, if we're not into our word, how can we hear him? We have to build this relationship with God so we can guide him. We don't want to miss what he has for us. So we can fulfill his will, not our own. So you don't need to have it all figured out. Really, you just need to stay connected. And sometimes it doesn't feel like it makes sense, like this world's logical sense, and what we are receiving instruction from God. But it's important to understand that He has plans to prosper us, not to destroy us. And He's also not the author of confusion. The devil is the author of confusion. So it's important to stay into your word, pray, go to church, so you can hear His voice more clearly and not be confused. Also, surrounding yourself around godly people will also help in that. So even when you don't understand what God is doing, He's still at work. Now, John 13:7 says, "What I am doing you do not understand now, but you will know after this." So don't try to understand everything, but just make sure you're staying connected and you're trusting God, putting your full trust in God. And maybe you even need that reminder today. You're not meant to carry the weight of figuring everything out. Sometimes you got to let God handle things. Now, Proverbs 3:5-6 tells us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths." Now we'll dive into our fourth topic. Obedience isn't oppression, it's protection. Now let's talk about a word that makes people uncomfortable. Obedience. For some, it sounds controlling, but biblical obedience is actually liberating, whether you believe it or not. It's supposed to be freeing for you. It's about trusting that God knows what's best for your life, even when it's hard. You're basically breaking the shackles of this world from you when you listen to God, right? Because we're supposed to be obedient to God over everything. And obedience may cost you some relationships, but we are called to be obedient to God. And we have several references for this in the Bible as well. And sometimes when things are getting in your way of being obedient for God, sometimes you'll go through lessons, right? And trials. So you understand to just rely on Him, not this world. God will remove people from your life who are not aligned with your purpose. Some will leave quietly. Others will leave in chaos. But either way, God is doing His work. He's doing His work in your life. And when you're obedient, you're not walking alone anymore. You're following the one who sees the full picture. So it's important to trust in Him and focus on being obedient. Obedient over sacrifice. Obedient over feelings. Obedient over rules. Just trust God. Now we're getting into our closing thoughts. Culture changes, but God remains the same. Our culture is changing faster than ever, but God, He remains the same. So if you've been struggling with where you fit in this world, or wondering how to build a better community or deepen your walk with God, let me encourage you, start by working on you. Start by working on your relationship with God, which is working on you. And you'll heal, grow, also spend time in the Word. Get connected to a Bible teaching church. Find music that uplifts your spirit. Surround yourself with people who challenge you to grow in your faith. And above all, build your relationship with God first. Let Him be the foundation that you need. Let Him work with the pieces that you have left and let Him rebuild them. Well, thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of Covered Podcast. I'm so happy that you all made it all the way to the end. And if this spoke to you, share it with a friend. Also, feel free to like, subscribe, comment about these videos. We did share some powerful Bible verses today, so you can even share what your favorite verse was that was shared today. You'll find them in the description. And also, we've got more real faith-filled conversations on the way and maybe some surprise guests for you all. So until next time, stay covered.